I want to tell you about the time that I met Tom Brady. Actually, the first time. I've met him twice. First time was 2010, and I was assisting one of my buddies on the governor's detail. I wasn't on there yet, but he recruited me to help him with the lieutenant governor at that time. And so it was 2010. We were just trying to scope out the area. They had already done an advance to see where all the different places that lieutenant governor might go. But he asked me if I would go up with this other fella, this other trooper, who we called Doc, Lauren Holiday, and Doc's left us since then. But Doc and I went to advance I think it was the Jockey Club Suites at the Derby. So we walk in there, and there's all these celebrities everywhere. And this is the first time I'd ever been. We started looking around and just trying to see who all was up there. And lo and behold, I was walking through the crowd and looked over at Doc, and I said, Doc, is that Tom Brady? And he says, D, I think it is. It might be. So, of course, we walk a little closer, and he's talking to somebody. And I actually had my phone at the time and pulled it out and just kind of snapped a picture of him just in case I didn't get to talk to him. But I've got that picture. I'll try to attach it to this. But anyway, so he walks off from the guy, and there's a bunch of his teammates. I think it's Wes Welker and Vince Wolfork and a few others that were over there, and they were all having a big time. So Tom's kind of by himself, and I walked over to him and I said, "Hey, Tom, I'm Derek. I'm part of the governor's detail here with the state police, and just always admired your work, and just wanted to shake your hand." And so he smiled and he was like, "Hey, it's good to meet you," and shook my hand. And anyway, he just kind of stood there and he said, "Is the governor up here?" And I said, "Well," I said, "they may end up coming up this way a little bit later. So we always just go scope out the areas and make sure everything's okay." And I said, "Hey, I know it's maybe a little much to ask. Can I get a quick picture with you?" I said, "Just because nobody's going to believe that I met you." And so he goes, "Man, if I take one with you and somebody sees it, then I'll have to take them with everybody." I said, "Well, that's understandable. I said, I don't want to draw any attention to you that, people that may not have seen you yet." And so 2 seconds later, this guy walks up and he says, "Hey, Tom, my daughters are big fans of yours. Would you take a picture with us?" And so Tom's like, and he goes, "Oh, come on, it's just right over here." So anyway, I'm just kind of look at him and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so he walks over and they actually face me as they're taking the picture. And I just looked at Tom and I'm like, and he says, and gives me this sheepish grin, and he kind of mouths, "I'll be over in a second." And of course, right after they took the picture, some other people came over, and of course it kind of came to pass that, yeah, they all saw who it was, and so then people wanted pictures with him. But he just kind of gave me that look like, "Well, what do you do?" And anyway, I thought it was kind of a jerk move at first, but it's Tom Brady. But fast forward to the next year, and we are doing the same thing, but I'm actually on the governor's detail at this time. And so we have the lieutenant governor up there, and I was the head of his detail. And so we started walking through there. Well, there's Tom Brady again. And so I asked the lieutenant governor, I said, "Hey, would you like to meet Tom Brady?" And he says, "Well, yeah, sure." And so I walked over and I said, "Hey, Tom," I said, "I met you last year. I'm on the governor's detail." And he's like, "Oh, yeah." And I said, "Not wanting a picture." And I kind of laughed. I said, "I just want to introduce you to the lieutenant governor. He's up here." And he wanted to meet you. And so I took him over and I said, hey, Tom, this is Lieutenant Governor. And I told him his name and this is Tom Brady. And he says, pleasure to meet you, sir, or whatever. And so then the Lieutenant Governor sees somebody else that he starts talking to, and Brady's standing there and he said, hey, he said, do you have any idea, any tips on mudders? He said, it's raining awful out there. And he said, I know the track's going to be muddy. Thought maybe you might have heard some good advice. And I said, well, Tom, I said, actually, right before we came up here, somebody was actually talking about that. And they were saying lay heavy bets on this horse and that horse. And so I gave him a couple and he goes, all right, so I'll go do that right now. And so I don't remember if they actually did well at that particular Derby, but it was just kind of a cool thing that I can say I gave Tom Brady horse racing betting advice. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of made up for the year before. But anyway, just one of the things that kind of came with the job. You know, we were at the Derby every year. It's kind of our Super Bowl in Kentucky, and just a really cool experience. But just wanted to share that with you.